According to statistics, the supply of new apartments in Ho Chi Minh City in the first quarter of 2019 is 12,000 units, down 57% from last year. The shortage of supply is one of the main reasons that the price of high-end apartments increased by 15% in 2018, with mid-range apartments also increasing prices by 13%. In 2018, the average selling price in Ho Chi Minh City was $1,600 per meter. The figure had ranged from $1,800 to $1,900 per meter. In Hanoi, the price index of houses in the first quarter of 2019 increased by 1 point on a quarterly basis and 3 points on the year, reaching 107.2. According to the real estate expert, with the current stable market, low supply, the price of the markets continues to tend to increase.
Greetings from Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Việt. Over the years, the real estate market in Vietnam has seen positive changes, and in today's show, we'd like to talk about the pricing in this market, what are the trends and also the changes in this market. And the guest speaker in our program today is Mr. Piro, the Chief Operating Officer of Indochina Capital. So thank you for joining us. What can you say about the real estate market over the years, and especially what is most noticeable in this market?
So my first job ever, I was in Da Nang City. It was 2006. I was 22 years old, and my job was to sell the first condominiums in Da Nang. And at that time, it was very, very difficult. We were trying to sell to a lot of foreign buyers. And we would go to Hong Kong, we would go to Singapore, and maybe I needed to meet about 100 people to sell one apartment. Fast forward, looking at the market today, 10 years later, today you can sit here and you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to go to Hong Kong, you don't have to go to Singapore, and 100 buyers will come to your doorstep to buy your product. So for me, I think the biggest thing that has shocked me the most about the market in Vietnam, kind of what has kind of happened over the last 2 to 3 years and what's happening today, is the kind of prolific demand from foreign investors. We're seeing that this is mostly being driven from Koreans, Taiwanese, and Chinese. But I was very surprised when I look around the projects in the market. It's almost unanimous in all cases that the foreign allocation, the 30% allocated to foreigners, sells out very quickly. So what I say, the biggest trend that I would see that's happening in the market today that's surprising me is the just absolute depth of foreign demand for Vietnamese real estate. It is incredible how many foreigners are looking to buy in Vietnam today.
Talking about the buyers' preferences, what are the changes in the buyers' preferences? Can you share more with us about this?
Well, I think the level of sophistication that we've seen evolve over the last decade is very, very impressive. Today, buyers are not going to just buy off plan so easily. They're not going to be so trusting, and they're going to be much more sophisticated in their approach. So developers need to be much better organized. Developers need to be much more product focused, much more customer focused, because today the customer is very different. They want to know about parking ratios. They want to know who is the contractor, who's actually going to be building my apartment, what brand is my toilet and my sink taps going to be, who's going to manage the building, how will it be managed. How do you deal with the homeowners association? How are management fees broken down? So when I came here 10 years ago, no one asked these questions. They did not ask these questions. They didn't think about these things. But now people have lived in condominiums. They've bought in condominiums. They've sold condominiums. And today we're sitting in a place where the buyers are very, very sophisticated. They're very prudent. And they're demanding much more out of developers. I would say another main characteristic that's changed is people are looking for community-oriented developments. So before, people would be happy just buying a home. 4 walls, bedrooms, kitchen, living room, bathrooms. Today, people want a community. Traffic is getting worse. Congestion is getting worse. People don't want to sit in their car all day. They want to live somewhere where they have all their facilities and amenities. Like places like this, like Indochina Plaza, Hanoi. I actually live here myself, and I live here because I can work here, I can work out here, I can watch movies here, I can do my shopping here. I don't have to leave once I'm here. I don't want to get stuck in the traffic. And so I think people are much more conscious about their time, and they were looking for convenience. Nowadays, families, mom and dad is working. They don't have time to be running around too much. They want a lifestyle solution when they buy a home. And I think that's why Vincom has done so well and other developers, because they're putting together communities. And that's what buyers are looking for today.
Hanoi is a big city in the region. So how do you compare the pricing in the real estate market with the pricing in the real estate market in other cities like Bangkok, Singapore, or Hong Kong?
You know, if you look at Bangkok and Hong Kong and Singapore, that's what really gives me a lot of faith about the future of Vietnam's real estate market. Vietnam has an extremely high population. The country is not particularly large, so we have a very high population density. That in itself lends itself to rising property values. And if you look at where we are today, yes, some people are saying, look, we're expensive, we're $2,500 a square meter or $3,000 a square meter. But if you look at Hong Kong today, you're about $30,000 a square meter. If you look at Singapore, you're around $18,000 a square meter. If you look at Tokyo, you're around $15,000 a square meter. So Vietnam is still in its infancy, the real estate market. We are still a baby, and we still have a very, very long way to go in terms of supply and price growth. So I still am very bullish about the pricing. I think it's very fair pricing today, and I think there's still a lot of upside for buyers that pick the right projects in the right locations.
Savo Vietnam has just announced the real estate price index in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City markets in the first 6 months of 2019. For Ho Chi Minh City, the housing price index in the first quarter of 2019 reached 95.4, stable and up 1 point year-on-year. Total transaction reached 6,900 units. Absorption rate reached 52%, down 8 percentage point quarter-over-quarter, but up to 4 percentage point year-over-year. In Hanoi, the price index of houses in the first quarter of 2019 increased by 1 point on a quarterly basis and 3 points on the year, reaching 107.2. Total units sold increased by 70% year-over-year, but decreased by 14% quarter-over-quarter. The average absorption rate reached 29%, down 3 percentage points quarter-on-quarter, but up to 4 percentage points year-on-year. Approximately 44,000 apartments from 34 current and future projects will be launched. Gia Lam and Thi Liem's district with fast-growing infrastructure will witness strong competition.
Giá bất động sản thì có thể tăng nhẹ do cái nguồn cung tại thị trường Hà Nội và thành phố Hồ Chí Minh giảm so với những năm trước đây. Quý 1 vừa qua thì cũng chứng kiến một loạt các cái thay đổi về giá như là các mặt hàng thiết yếu như là xăng rồi điện. Đấy, và điều đó thì cũng sẽ ảnh hưởng đến tác động đến cái đầu vào của cái thị trường như là giá vật liệu hay là giá nhân công, chắc chắn là sẽ tác động đến cái giá của bất động sản.
Well, I think in any investment cycle and in any market that is developing, there are peaks and troughs, and there are speculative bubbles, small ones, big ones, anywhere you go. And I think it's important not to be over excited by prices rising, and if they rise with no connection or relevance to the income that you can generate from the land, then there is a risk. However, you have to remember that Vietnam is catching up from a low base compared to the neighboring countries. So there obviously is an uplift in prices over the long run.
Also, according to CBRE Vietnam, the current demand, especially the demand for the market, is still very high. The second quarter of 2019 is the first quarter in the past few years when the number of apartments sold exceeded the number of new open sale apartments. The growth rate in Hanoi market is at 1 to 4%, while in Ho Chi Minh City is 8 to 10%.
As you said, it is a fair pricing. So would you say that the price of the real estate market here in Vietnam, particularly in Hanoi, is close to the actual value? And it is said that the price of some affordable apartments in Hanoi may range from 20 to 30 million VND per square meters.
I don't think that the pricing is off. I don't think anyone's making a lot of money doing this. I think people are making normal development returns. So I think the market is actually operating quite efficiently. I have seen in other times in Vietnam, for example, when I first came here, when condos that were probably, cheap land price, cheap building price, but maybe a good brand and a good story, they could sell something that's maybe worth $2,000 for $3,000 or $4,000. Today, that's not happening. Again, the buyers are much smarter. They know what they're looking at. The market is extremely competitive. Land prices are rising. No one is getting an extraordinary return from this. I think everyone's working off of fair margins. So I think the buyers, as a buyer today in the market, I don't think anyone's getting ripped off. I think now is a good, fair time to be buying real estate. And again, I would say that not all projects are created equal. Don't just pick any project. Pick a good developer, pick a good community, pick a good location. And I think, I think the timing right now is quite good to get into the market.
In the future, when the land fund is increasingly scarce and the housing demand is kind of saturated, so will the price of the real estate market continue to increase?
In my opinion, yes. I think we still have a lot of room to grow. If you look at, we're still seeing increasing demand from foreign buyers. So we still haven't even tapped into the full potential of our foreign demand. So I think we're going to continue to see growth year over year in the foreign demand category. Domestically, right now the market it's had a good run. I think right now it's fairly stable, but I think there's still a huge amount of opportunity for prices to rise, particularly as we're going to see infrastructure advancement. The cities are going to get more convenient. We're seeing a lot of urbanization, so people migrating from the provinces or countryside into the cities. That's putting additional pressure. We're seeing rising incomes. We're seeing unprecedented amounts of FDI come into the country, which is going to create more jobs, bring more expats that need to rent apartments, et cetera, et cetera. So overall, I'm not worried about it. I think I'm very bullish about the price of real estate here. Of course, prices don't rise overnight always. I always take a patient view. I always take a 5-year view, a 10-year view. But there'll always be ups and downs, but long term, this is still a great place to invest in real estate.
So from now until the end of 2019, would you say that there are some kind of the changes in the real estate market, especially for the pricing? Between
now and the end of the year, I don't think we're going to see any major changes. I think things will remain relatively stable. Globally, it looks like interest rates are coming down, so I think demand characteristics overall will remain strong. So overall, I think the market is in good shape right now, and I wouldn't anticipate any major corrections, changes, or anything significant between now and the end of the year. I think the Vietnamese government has done an amazing job in controlling the real estate market, putting in the right policies, making it more foreign-friendly for investment, and I hope they continue in that direction and we can continue to build our real estate market.
Once again, thank you for joining us and for your sharings today. And that's all we have for today, so thank you for watching and goodbye for now.